I just want to welcome everyone this morning by saying good morning. My name is Brian Keogh. I'm a filing specialist here at Colig, and I've been with the Commission for a little over 5.5 years now. And I'm certain that over these past 5.5 years, I've had the pleasure of speaking with or assisting many of you over the phone or through email during that time. So again, I just would like to thank each and every one of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to participate in this informational training today. We have done 2 of these previously. The first one was the registration training that some of you might have attended. The other one was the client semi-annual training and source of funding training that we did just before the holidays. So today we are actually going to cover some of the same stuff that was included in those previous trainings, but we're going to focus more today as far as the filing that gets submitted, and that's going to be the bi-monthly filing that the lobbyists wind up doing every 2 months, as well as the disbursement of public monies form as well, and Brianna will go through some of that with you as well. So what we want to get started on is, the first thing we want to touch on is accessing the ethics lobbying application itself. We get a lot of inquiries, questions, regardless of how many times people have been in there, you know, just to basically how to access it. So we're going to go through that along with like first-time users versus returning users. You know, how to get enrolled into the LA if you've never been in there before, going through our website. You know, we've had a lot of questions and inquiries regarding the ny.gov and how to create an ny.gov username, password using the enrollment link that's on the website. We're going to go through all of that. One thing also that we will get to shortly as we're going through this is a contact phone number for the ny.gov help desk, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. So for those of you that might be brand new users, a lot of you have been using the system since day one. That was launched about 5 years ago, but some of you are first-time users, okay? We're going to go through the just exactly what is needed to get signed up for someone who's never used the ethics lobbying application before, and going through ny.gov to, you know, to get signed up with a username and password. One thing I want to make mention of is that this system is very individualized, and what do I mean by that? When you sign in, you're not signing in as an organization. Some of you remember the very old legacy application where that was actually the case, that prior to 5 years ago, you would sign in with one username, one password for one organization. Those days are long gone. We are now, every individual, okay, every person that goes in there into the lobbying application needs to have their own individual username, user profile in the system along with their own individual password. And I'm going to go through that just here in a minute. So for those of you who are brand new, that have never used our lobbying application before, you're brand new to it, one thing I want to make note is that for people who are brand new, we've had a lot of cases where individuals would come into a lobbying firm and we'll just say Jane Smith was the preparer or the delegated administrator for years and years, and she retired, and then you know, a new person comes in and they say, well, I can just use Jane Smith's old username and password. That is not the case. In that case, you would still have to create your own username and password that is specific to you as an individual. So for those of you who are brand new, I'm just going to kind of go through quick exactly where you would go and how you would sign up for going through our enrollment link for a new username and password, and basically how to create a user profile. So whenever accessing our lobbying application, whether you're a returning user, whether you're brand new, always go through our website. I encourage everybody just to go through our website to log in. You can go through my.ny.gov as a shortcut, but we usually tend to advise people always just try to go through our website, to do that. So you would always sign in. You're first going to go to using Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge, Safari, any trusted internet browser. You're going to go through ethics.ny.gov. That's the web address. So it's this one right up here, ethics.ny.gov. Okay. And that is going to ultimately bring you right to the front page of our website, which looks just like this. Now, you're going to notice once you get onto our main website, okay, there's a bunch of categories across the top. In your free time, always feel free to check out like the different categories in our website. There's a lot of good information out there. But for today's demonstration, we are going to go into the lobbying application. You access that by hovering over the word lobbying. And as you'll notice, it gives you an actual drop-down menu here, okay? And you're always going to click on the very first one, and that's File Online, okay? Now, you can, for returning users, you always can access the application by hitting LA Access. I encourage everyone that I speak with to scroll down from here just so you can see the two different links. There's a returning users link. So if you've been in there before, you know you have a user profile, you filed stuff before, you're always going to hit the returning users link, okay? And that will ultimately bring you to a ny.gov login page, okay? But for those of you who are brand new, it's a one-time deal. You're going to go through this thing called the enrollment link right here, okay? All right, so we click on that. And again, this is for first-time users only. The very first question that comes up here is going to be, do you have an existing account at my.ny.gov? This sometimes will confuse people. The question basically being asked is, have you ever used ny.gov before? And that could be for your DMV, if you do your DMV business through there, or you file your taxes, so you would have access to tax and finance, Department of Labor, any of those, if you've ever used it before, okay, you would hit the yes. If you're not sure, again, I'm going to give you a phone number to the ny.gov help desk that you can always call and actually speak to somebody, and they can help you out and decide if you actually have an ny.gov account or not. For this demonstration, we're just going to say, okay, I've never used ny.gov before for anything, and we're going to hit no. Okay, so if you hit no, it's actually going to instruct you to create a username and a password, okay? I definitely want to focus on this particular part right now about usernames, temporary passwords, that sort of thing. So a lot of the questions that I get, and a lot of the questions that our lobbying help desk gets is, what should I create a username? What should my username be? First of all, I want to also mention that from this point on, anything that you put in here is case sensitive. It will recognize it. So if you put a capital letter in there, it will recognize it. That's just a little note of something to note that it is case sensitive. So again, the username, we have, over the years, we've found out that you should not use an email address for a desired username. And I'll get to that as the reason why in just a minute. What I have been suggesting to everyone that I have talked to is to make it as specific to yourself as possible. So you got to remember, there are millions of people out there that in New York State that have used ny.gov, meaning that there's probably millions of usernames. So you want to make it to your, to as specific to yourself as an individual as possible. So what I always suggest is do like a first initial, last name, and then like a 4 or 5 digit number, like a birthday or something like that. So it's specific to you. Now, I'm not going to go through and actually create right now an actual username, but I just wanted to touch on this for new users. So then you would actually create what we call a temporary password, okay? And you'll find out if you ever have to do this that it actually makes you change it slightly, you know, as you go through the process. But it's pretty self-explanatory. Now, passwords, that's another concern that we've run into. Everybody asks, well, what should the password be? Passwords always need to contain, whether it's a temporary or a permanent password, they always need to contain at least 14 characters, okay? They have to include one uppercase, one lowercase, one number, and one special character, okay? It can be longer than 14 characters, but it has to be at least 14 in order for it to work, okay? And then it's pretty self-explanatory. You'll just kind of go through and fill out the rest, first name, last name, you know, your email address. This, you know, will actually get you set up to add the user, and then you'll go in and it'll take you through the process, you know, from there. So, you know, why the question we get a lot is why no? Why do we have a rule where you shouldn't use your email address for a desired username? It's pretty simple. Is that, say we've run into a couple of situations where individuals are at a, you know, lobbying firm A, and they're there for a couple of years and then they move and get another job for whatever reason at lobbying firm B, okay? What we want to avoid is duplicate profiles in our system and duplicate profiles within ny.gov. If you use the email address going forward, you cannot change the desired username. Now, the email address that's associated, they can change that. And again, I will provide that phone number for the ny.gov help desk. You would just call them and, you know, they can make that switch. And from what I understand, it's a pretty easy process. But the desired username, again, like I said, it really should be specific to yourself as an individual. You know, do not make it an email address because once it's in there, that's it. That is the permanent password. They do not have the ability to change that. Okay. So, as promised, if you ever run into any, you know, username, you know, password issues, especially that's specific to ny.gov, okay? And I've explained this in my past trainings, is that ny.gov is not, it talks to our lobbying application, but it is, you know, it is not, it's just like a, what I like to call like a front door to a house. You know, it's like a portal that lets you in and gives you access to the lobbying application and other things like DMV, Department of Tax and Finance, stuff like that. So any password-related issues that, you know, password resets should be, you should contact the ny.gov help desk. And their phone number is, and I'll repeat it, you know, just in case you need to write it down, that ny.gov help desk phone number is 844-891-1786, option number 2. That's the password option. So once again, that phone number is 844-891-1786, and it's option number 2 when you call there. Okay, and that is for the ny.gov help desk, not to be confused with our lobbying help desk. They are two separate entities. So going forward, you know, once you've created an individual user profile for the lobbying application, you know, I'm going to get you in just in a second and show you, like, you know, the individual, you know, user profile that's created that is in our LA, and kind of go through our individual dashboard. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back out and actually we're going to become a returning user. So most of you, not all, but most of you have been in the application over the last 5, 6 years. So we're going to, most of you, when you come in here to sign in, you all go to the returning users link, okay? And just bear with me 1 second. We're just going to sign on here into our profile. Okay, so this is going to bring you into, like I said, it's going to bring you into the front door of ny.gov, okay? This will look similar for a lot of people. Sometimes a lot of you will only have access to one of the following services. That's ethics lobbying application, as you can see down here. Some of you, like I said, you might have access to more depending on what you as an individual are connected to. But for this demonstration, we're just going to go into the ethics lobbying application, and that should take you into your individual dashboard, okay? This will look similar for each and every one of you, okay? You will notice that you are logged in under your name, and you can always tell that by looking at the upper right-hand corner, okay? So in this case, this individual is Mark Johnson. We're going to just click on his name. I'm going to show you guys what the individual profile looks like. Now, for those of you who are brand new, at one point or another, you guys have filled out primary user information when you first signed up for the lobbying application. This is all that information right here, okay? You'll notice that each and every one of you has your own individual ID number. You can always find that by looking up in the upper left-hand corner here. Okay, so in this case, Mark's is 824, all right? And it's got your basic information. A lot of this will look familiar to many of you. If any of this information ever changes, like I said, if you go to a, if you're working at lobbying firm A and you get a new job at lobbying firm B, as opposed to creating a duplicate profile or another separate profile, you would keep this one, but you would update the information on here. You would just do that by hitting the edit button up in the upper right-hand corner and just scrolling down. And it's pretty self-explanatory. You would update, if you have to update your business street address or your contact phone number, or say you get a new phone, you have a new phone number, you want to update it, this is where you would go to do it. And especially you would definitely want to update your email address. Make sure that that is always current. And then once that is all set, you basically would go down and just check mark the box and hit save. And for just like profile updates, most of the time you would just take the current date. This is very important. A lot of you have called asking questions about this. This is actually very, very important. I'm sure many of you have seen this screen come up. If this screen ever comes up when you're doing a profile update or a recertification, you're always going to check mark this last box here. It says check if not updating filings. That's super important. Because you're not updating any of the filings, you're just doing a profile update. And then you would just hit submit. And it takes you back to the top. And so that's pretty much it about individual profiles. One thing I wanted to touch on too, we get a lot of calls on, is how do I check my training status? Last year we began the training for the ethics training for lobbyists and clients. A lot of people say, well, am I up to date? How do I figure out if I think I took it, I don't remember. These little tabs on the left-hand side in your individual profile, okay, you can actually click on the training tab, and it will give your status of your training. So in this case, this individual took this November of last year, and it actually will give you your next due date for when it's due next. So it's just kind of a neat little feature that's added in here. Like I said, a lot of people ask us about the training. You know, are they up to date? Are they not? You know, how do they know? You know, if it's, you know, if I did it right, or if I completed it or I attested to it. This is where you would go to do that. So, and that is in your individual profile. Okay. So go back out the dashboard here. One other thing I just want to touch on real quick. You know, a lot of individual lobbyists always ask us, you know, where do I go to, you know, I did the training. I did, you know, I took, you know, I went through the, you know, actually took the training, but I didn't know, you know, I'm in this application now. I need to know where to go to attest to it. It's very, very simple. You get to your individual dashboard. Once you sign in, your training is right over here under the word training, obviously. And you're just going to hit report. Okay. And then you can go ahead and just check mark that you took the training and submit it. It's pretty simple. And if you ever run into any trouble, you know, trying to attest that, you have any questions, you can always contact our lobbying help desk, and they'd be happy to walk you through that. We're going to go back out the dashboard now. That's pretty much it for you know, the logging in and how to access your individual dashboard. One other thing many of you will notice is your affiliated organizations. These are organizational profiles that you are actually affiliated to, either as a delegated administrator, an authorized preparer, or the chief administrative officer. And you can always find that over on the left-hand side over here. All right. So now we are actually going to start getting into the how to access and actually start a lobbyist bi-monthly report. Some of you could probably do this in your sleep. Others, you know, just you know, you do it every 2 months, and sometimes, you know, might have forgotten how to at least get it started and going. So we're going to at least just you know, go through here and show you how to actually start it. So you're on your individual dashboard report. It is a lobbyist filing, okay? So it's pretty self-explanatory. You're going to go under your lobbyist filing here. We're just going to click bi-monthly. So now we're going to select the organization. For this demonstration, we are just going to do an employed organization, meaning that they lobby on your own behalf. So for this one, we are going to do Bank Designs. Okay. And then we are just going to go down to the correct registration that it's connected to, in this case, Bank Designs, and we're going to hit the select button. Okay. And then we are going to look for the current reporting period. In this case, for this demonstration, we're just going to go ahead and do the 2024 January through February, as that is coming up. The deadline for that is coming up on March 15th. So we'll just hit the start button. Okay. And that opens up the bi-monthly report for the 24 January, February reporting period. So this is the front page. So now that you're into the report itself, okay, first page you're going to come up to is your co and sub-lobbyist information. I won't get too much into that, but I will reiterate, as I've done in the past trainings, if you're not quite sure, what the true definition of a co and sub-lobbyist is, always use these, you'll notice these little lowercase i's inside this blue circle here. Okay, what these are what we call information icons. Okay, so if you actually click on these, and they're throughout the entire form. Okay, each page has an information icon. So if you click on it, it actually gives you the definition of what a co-lobbyist is, what a sub-lobbyist is in this case. Like I said, you'll see these throughout the forms. And this is not just for bi-monthlies, this is also for registrations, it's for client semi-annuals, source of fundings, DPMs. It's, I encourage everybody to use them to their advantage. They're actually quite helpful. So we are now going to close this out. So in this case, we do not have a co and sub-lobbyist. Move it on and hit continue. We'll notice that the beneficial client is listed here. Okay. And then we'll hit continue. This brings you to your individual lobbyist information. This should be the individual lobbyist that actually did lobbying for this reporting period. Again, if you see a name that is not on the list, you would just hit the modify button, okay? And then you can actually, all these will be pulled from your individual lobbyist tabs from the organizational profile. So you can actually add, delete, it's pretty self-explanatory. Then you would just save the changes. And then we hit continue. And that's going to bring up our summary of compensation and reimbursed expenses for this period. So from here, I'm actually going to turn it over to Brianna Cajano, who is going to go through the rest of the form, okay, for the bi-monthly reports. And also we'll get into, briefly about the DPM reports as well. So let me just kick it over to Brianna.
Okay, thank you, Brian. So now in the bi-monthly filing, we're at the Compensation and Expenses tab. Here you can see for the lobbyist, we display the lobbying agreement information here, and it's just a nice reference, especially for filers who have multiple registration filings, to be able to see the duration of the contract and the compensation amount that is listed on the corresponding registration statement. So if there's compensation to report, it's pre-selected as yes, and you would just put the compensation for that current period only here. However, for bi-monthly filings, they're required to be submitted whether or not there was compensation during this period, this bi-monthly period. So if for some reason, which happens, there is no compensation for the January through February bi-monthly period, you would just need to select no here so that it's reflected in order to move on to the next tab. But if there is compensation for this particular demonstration, we're going to list $30,000 because the compensation amount is $15,000 per month according to the contract. In the sub-tab below, other lobbying expenses, this is where you would report any other lobbying expenses you have for the current period only. And as Brian mentioned, there are these information tooltip icons that you can select if you have any questions in regards to any information that you may need to input in these fields. If you have any itemized expenses, you would select add here to add those. For any individual expenses, it's pre-selected the radio button for individual, and you would just fill out the fields below. And if it's for an organization expense item, you would just select organization, the radio button there, and you would input the information here. If you have multiple itemized expenses to list, You don't need to select close after you add each expense. You can select add another and then just continue on until you're finished, and then you would select close. For unstructured coalition member contributions, if this is applicable, you would also, this is where you would input that information. So you would select add here. You would put the coalition name, fill out all the fields, and it works the same way as the itemized expenses. You would select add if there's just one, and then close. If you have multiple to list, you would just keep selecting add another. And then you would, we're just going to select this checkbox for this presentation. So for employed and retained, employed will always, so the information that's listed on the bi-monthly filing will continue to carry over to the next bi-monthly filing. It's important to note that after the first one's been submitted for the contract duration, but you can edit any of the information that you need as you go through the filing. So the next tab will continue to lobbying subjects. The subjects will pre-populate over because these were listed on the previous bi-monthly filing. If they're not applicable anymore, you would select the X to remove. If these are the two that you want listed, you would just leave them there and select continue. If you have a new subject to add, you would just select the asterisk and you can pick the applicable choice. For the lobbying activities tab, if you have none to report, you just select no. If you have activities to report, you would select the level of government first. These also populate over from what you've already entered in on your previous bi-monthly filing. So you would want to review this information down here and see if you need to either remove a selected focus or add a new one. To add a selected focus, you would start under lobbying focus and you would select update. Here you would just, this is where you would input your lobbying focus. So under type, for this demonstration, we'll select state bill. Communication type, you would select either direct, grassroots, or both, or monitoring only. It's important to note that any monitoring only expenses on your bi-monthly filing, so for the client semi-annual, the clients have the option to select focuses reported by lobbyists. So any lobbyists that have registered that particular client, the focuses that are listed in the 6-month period on the bi-monthly filings can be carried over to the client semi-annual. The only focuses that won't be carried over are anything that's listed under monitoring only. So over here under focus identifying number or description, you would just type in capital S or A for the bill number and then put the number in, and you would select enter on your keyboard and it will be brought down below. And you can also edit the communication type here as well if you need to. If you're unsure and you need to add the description if the identifying number is unknown, you would select that link, the communication type, and then you would type in the description here and select add, and it would appear under here. If you have multiple focuses to add, you can select load multiple, and you can put it under the specific communication type. So, but when you enter here, you would need to not put a space in between. So you would enter this, then the first focus type, put a comma, and then the second focus type, and select process, and it would bring them over. Once you've added all your lobbying focuses, you can select close, and that portion has been completed. And then you would need to move over to parties lobbied if there's a new party to add. Here you would select update. You would type in, it's a pre-selected list, so if you know your party, then you can type it in and then select it in the drop-down. If you're unsure and you want to search, you can put the asterisk here and do a search, and then you would just select the party lobbied, and it would be brought over here. There is additional party information that needs to be listed for some parties that are added in. After that, you would select close, and then in order to bring the focus and the party lobby to the bi-monthly filing, you would select the focus, the parties lobbied that it should be connected to, Then it would be under Preview here, and you would select Add, and it would be moved down below onto your filing. So once you've inputted all that information that's applicable here, you would go to the attestation, and you would just select the attestation box indicating that all the information you entered is accurate. And you would select this and click Submit Filing. Now, it's really important that you see this filing submitted page with the confirmation number up top, just so that you know that your filing has successfully submitted. And you can always print this for your records so that you have a record that you submitted the filing, and this was the confirmation number that was given. What I recommend doing, and Brian would recommend this as well, is returning to your dashboard. I would go under Affiliated Organizations, open up your organization profile, go to Forms, make sure you're in the current year that you're searching for, select, for this particular filing, the Bi-Monthly tab, and here you can see that your 2024 January-February Bi-Monthly filing for Mag Designs is the status for that report is submitted, and the submission date is listed today's date, 2/27/2024. And then that's also confirmation for you that the filing's been submitted as well. So you can either print that page, you can go back here to look, or you can just do both for your own records. All right, so now we're going to go back to the dashboard, and I'm going to show you how to file a disbursement of public monies filing. And this is under the lobbyist filings under the Quick Start menu as well. So if applicable, that you need to file the disbursement of public monies form, to access it, you would select this button here. You would need to select the organization name as well that you're filing for. And again, the registration filings will appear below, so you can select which, for the disbursement of public monies, which registration you're filing that form under. So we'll select Mag Designs again. And it looks the same as a bi-monthly. You would find the period that you need to file the DPM for and select Start. And this is a filing that's only submitted if applicable. So it's not in place of or the bi-monthly. Sometimes there's a little bit of confusion, and some filers think that you need to file a bi-monthly and a disbursement of public monies form, or someone accidentally files a disbursement of public monies form instead of a bi-monthly filing. But the bi-monthly filing is the required filing, and it needs to be filed every 2 months throughout the contract duration for that biennial period. If there's a registration on file, the disbursement of public monies is only filed when applicable. So it opens up, the first tab opens up with co-sub-lobbyist again, and if you have a co or sub-lobbyist to list, you would type their names in those fields. This isn't a required field, it's only if applicable. So if we don't have, if you do not have either of those to add, you would select Continue. The beneficial client is carried over. If you have an additional beneficial client you would like to add to the DPM, you could do so by either typing in the organization name, selecting the asterisk, and selecting the correct organization name to list here. For here, we'll select 110 Bush Terminal. Now, we're not going to use this for this demonstration, so I'll remove it. So if you accidentally add somebody, the way to do that is to just select the X, and it will remove the beneficial client name. Then select Continue. The individual lobbyist is the same way as the bi-monthly filing. You would select Modify, and all the individual lobbyists that are listed in the organization profile are available for selection. So you would just select the applicable names, and they'll be brought under lobbyists authorized on DPM to the right. If you have an additional new lobbyist to add that isn't in the organization profile, you can do so by selecting Add New Individual Lobbyist. If not, and these are the 3 names that you would like listed, you would just select Save Changes. I recommend just, and Brian and any filing specialist you speak to would recommend just a select Close here. So once you've completed that step, their names will be listed here. If they are considered a designated lobbyist, the way to have that notated on the filing is to just select the checkbox under Designated. If you're unsure if they're a designated lobbyist, again, this information icon tool is really helpful. And if you still have any questions after reading this definition, you can always contact the bi-monthly unit. Then we'll move down to DPM compensation and expenses. This is where you would list the compensation reimbursed expenses for this period. In the sub-tab below is where you would list any DPM expenses for this particular period. If you have none to report, you would select this box. But if you have expenses to report, you would select Add. You can, it's similar to the bi-monthly filing, where if it's an individual that you're listing for an expense item to add, you would make sure that you're just under the radio button that's selected for individual. Organization, you would select the organization radio button. And you can add, if it's one expense, you select Add and click Close. If there's multiple expenses, you can just select Add Another until you're done adding all of them, and then select Close. Then you're going to go to the Lobbying Activities tab. This looks a lot different than the bi-monthly and the Client Semi-Annual tab. What you would need to do here is just select the type of lobbying relationship, the level of government, and then you would need to add the description of the grant, loan, or agreement involving the disbursement of public monies. And by doing so, you would select Add, you would type in a description, you would select from the pre-selected drop-down menu for the party lobbied. That would be added underneath parties lobbied, but in order to have it put on your filing, you would need to select Add. If you need to edit any information, say you accidentally selected an incorrect parties lobbied, you don't need to remove the entire line. You can select the pencil icon, and you can make any corrections here and select Save. Then you'll go to the attestation, and again, you would just select this box saying that everything, all the information completed on this filing is accurate, and then you would select Submit Filing. So over here, you'll receive the Filing Submitted page again with a confirmation number. I would recommend, like I mentioned earlier, just printing this for your records or taking a screenshot of it. And then this is your confirmation that you submitted the filing. Then if you'd like as well, you can return to Dashboard, go through the same process as the bi-monthly filing and select View next to the organization name, the Forms tab, make sure you're in the correct year, and you would just go under the Disbursement tab. And we submitted one for 2023, so we'll select 2023. And this is also your confirmation that it was submitted and the submission date is today's date. And then once you're done with both of those filings, you would just go back to your dashboard, and if you have any other bi-monthlies to submit or a disbursement of public monies, you can do so the same way.